Imagine for a moment a martial art that dares to break with centuries of tradition, strips away esoteric veils, and promises to neutralize a street assault before you can even blink. Sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? Well, in 1954, a young Hawaiian of just 23 years not only imagined it, but turned it into a tangible reality. His name was Ed Parker, a visionary who took traditional Kenpo, ran it through the filter of modern science, and transformed it into something completely new, American Kenpo, a system so brutally effective and direct that today many know it as the calculator of self-defense. How the hell did he pull off such a feat? Get ready, because we're about to unravel, piece by piece, this fascinating revolution, martial might, where warriors live forever. Ed Parker came into the world in 1931 in vibrant Honolulu, Hawaii. Picture those streets drenched in ocean breeze, the constant bustle of the harbor, always filled with transient sailors, and of course, the inevitable neighborhood brawls that forged character. It was in that crucible, at the tender age of 16, that his path crossed with Master Frank Chow. Soon after, he would meet William Kwai's son Chow, a pivotal figure who unveiled to him the secrets of a very particular Kenpo, an electrifying fusion of the lightning hands of Kung Fu with the discipline and stances of Japanese karate. But Ed wasn't just muscle. While perfecting his strikes, he was also feeding his mind. At Brigham Young University, he immersed himself in psychology, political science, and sociology. Coincidence? Not even close. Parker was fascinated by the mechanics of the human mind, especially under the pressure of conflict. He didn't just want to know how to strike, but why, and how a person reacts in a life-or-death situation. His military service took him far from Hawaii to Korea and Japan. There, amid strict discipline and harsh reality, he stumbled upon a truth that hit harder than any punch. His elegant Japanese katas, so pristine in the dojo, collapsed under the unexpected charge of a 200-pound Marine. They didn't work. At that very moment, a seed sprouted in his mind. What if martial arts weren't a collection of static movements one had to conform to, but a living, malleable tool that adapted to the unpredictable chaos of the moment? That's when the idea that would change everything began to take shape. That brings us to Pasadena, California in 1954. Ed Parker, with his trademark spark of nonconformity, decided to open his first school. At first, his system was called Kenpo Jiu-Jitsu, and yes, it still bore traces of Japanese influence and jiu-jitsu techniques his first students expected. Imagine the scene. People arriving, looking for those classic locks, those oriental forms that looked like something out of an epic samurai film. But what they found was radically different, almost a cultural shock. Instead of bows and ceremonial movements, they were met with a catalog of strikes with English names, straight to the point. Parker didn't mince words. He talked about combinations of 5 to 7 consecutive strikes, brutally efficient, and his motto was clear: there is no block here, only striking. Mysticism discarded, esoteric explanations replaced by scientific principles and pure, raw logic. It's no wonder many old guard masters branded him a heretic, a traitor to tradition. How dare he strip martial arts of their ancestral aura? But Parker, far from intimidated, responded with crushing logic. If your technique requires 10 steps to work, aren't you, in a way, signing your own death warrant? For him, tradition, however venerable, had become a cage, preventing evolution. The true test wasn't in the dojo, it was on the street. His mission was crystal clear: design a self-defense tool that worked today, in a dark alley, in everyday clothes, jeans and a t-shirt, and without ritual bows. A tool as effective as life itself, without embellishments or flourishes. That's when Ed Parker, with the meticulousness of a surgeon and the vision of an engineer, got to work. He dismantled every technique he had learned, every ancient move, and put them through a rigorous scientific filter. There was no room for mysticism if it didn't translate into tangible advantage. From this deconstruction came the pillars of his American Kenpo economy of motion. Why take a detour when you can go straight to the point? The shortest, most efficient route between your fist and the jaw is a straight line. Every millisecond counts. Every saved centimeter is a vital advantage in the street. Law of the lever. The human body, Parker explained, is an intricate machine of levers. Each joint is a window of control. You don't need to be the strongest. You need to know where and how to apply pressure to unbalance a larger opponent, controlling him before resorting to brute force. Principle of overaccumulation. Here's where Kenpo becomes truly devastating. Parker argued it's not about a single knockout blow that could miss, but about a burst of impacts, light but consecutive, in the same instant. Several fast, precise strikes in 1 second overwhelm the attacker's nervous and defensive systems, causing far more pain and confusion than a single, isolated blow. Thus, with these principles carved in stone, American Kenpo was born. A living system, not an immutable dogma, designed to evolve with each generation, adapting to emerging threats. Parker documented it in workbooks, in detailed manuals with a structured curriculum. He named each technique with straightforward names like 5 Swords or Dance of Death. And if someone asked him about QE, his answer was as dry as a right hook. I prefer the law of inertia. It's less subjective. But if anything catapulted American Kenpo into pop culture stardom, it was its unexpected romance with Hollywood. The spark ignited when none other than the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, walked into Parker's gym. What began as curiosity turned into devotion. Parker guided him all the way to the prestigious 8th degree black belt. Notice those iconic rock and roll kicks Elvis threw on stage. Much of that energy and those spinning kicks came straight from Kenpo teachings. From there, the list of celebrities who sought Parker grew exponentially. Actors like Peter Sellers, Robert Culp, Robert Wagner, and Warren Beatty joined his ranks, introducing Kenpo into television and film. And if we talk about milestones, we can't overlook 1964. Ed Parker organized the first International Karate Championships in Long Beach, an event that became legendary. It was there that a young unknown Bruce Lee, with his hypnotic speed, left the audience and scouts speechless. Parker, with his sharp eye, introduced him to key producers, paving Lee's path to Hollywood and global fame. This same tournament also boosted the careers of Chuck Norris and Mike Stone. Parker wasn't just building bridges between East and West. He was anchoring them in American showmanship. His own ventures into the industry weren't limited to teaching. He worked as a stuntman, acted in films, and even served as Elvis's personal bodyguard in his later years. If by now you find it mind-blowing that a Hawaiian, with his innovative spirit, revolutionized the martial arts world without breaking a sweat or losing his flower shirt, of course, buckle up, because next we'll see how Parker dissected the body's vital points with surgical precision, treating them like simple switches on a control panel. But before moving forward, I'd love to hear from you. Which self-defense technique out there do you think is pure facade, pure smoke? Leave it in the comments below. And if this story has hooked you as much as it did us, don't hesitate. Subscribe so you won't miss more incredible stories of masters who, like Parker, dared to change the rules of the game. Parker's vision didn't stay in the dojo. He immortalized it on paper. In 1960, he published his seminal work, Kenpo Karate, The Law of the Fist and the Empty Hand, and in 1963, Secrets of Chinese Karate. Instead of sutras, he explained human anatomy as a map of vulnerabilities. We're talking nerves, bones, and joints. The sciatic nerve, a precise strike on that exposed point by your hip, can instantly paralyze the rival's leg. The solar plexus, a push or strike of barely 0.3 seconds to this critical point, can lock the diaphragm, leaving the attacker breathless. The joint chain, a targeted blow blow to a finger joint, even if it doesn't break, causes enough reflexive pain to make him drop a weapon, like a knife. American Kenpo wasn't about knocking out, it was about disabling. That's why Parker taught to mark the attacker in a rapid, devastating sequence of vital points. Knee, groin, nose, clavicle, neck. 5 points, 5 strikes, all in an average of just 2 seconds. The key, speed. Training was done with a metronome. If you could strum a guitar at 180 beats per minute, you could throw 4 strikes per second. Despite his passing in 1990, Ed Parker's legacy has only grown and consolidated. In the 1980s, he crowned his work with the monumental book series Infinite Insights into Kenpo, 4 volumes that are still considered the Bible of American Kenpo and constantly sell out. His teachings didn't just remain in books. They made it to the big screen. His student, Jeff Speakman, became an action star, bringing Kenpo to cinema with films like The Perfect Weapon. Even legendary figures like Chuck Norris acknowledged Parker as an indirect mentor, a fundamental inspiration for his own system, Chun Kuk Do. Today, Parker's vision stretches across the globe. There are more than 2,000 American Kenpo schools in over 60 countries, and what's fascinating is that the very tradition Parker challenged is now what keeps his art alive. His widow and children continue updating the curriculum every 4 years, incorporating new defenses against modern impact weapons, adaptations for tight spaces, and sophisticated responses to knife assaults. Science advances, and Parker's Kenpo, always at the forefront, advances with it. If we had to summarize Ed Parker's philosophy in one phrase, it would be adapt, adopt, discard, a maxim he repeated tirelessly to his students. Adapt what is useful, adopt what improves your efficiency, and discard without hesitation what doesn't work on the street. For Parker, there was no place for blind loyalty to forms. The only valid loyalty was to results, to pure effectiveness. Perhaps that's why his martial art remains so lethal and relevant today, because it never allowed itself to be anchored to the past. Do you know someone who still believes that a higher belt automatically means a better fighter, or that mysticism matters more than practicality? Share this video with them. Maybe we'll open their eyes to a new perspective. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mind of a master who shattered paradigms, why not tell me in the comments which other system or figure you'd like us to dissect? Your suggestion might just become the topic of our next documentary. In the end, Ed Parker was that visionary who, looking at traditional martial arts, realized the future demanded less mystical fog and much more scientific precision. With the analytical mind of a scientist and the indomitable heart of a warrior, he forged American Kenpo, a system that turns the body into a calculator of efficiency and the attacker into an equation solved with brutal logic. From the beaches of Hawaii to the spotlights of Hollywood, his immense legacy shouts an undeniable truth. Innovating isn't betraying the ancestral. It's the only way to ensure that the next person walking down a dark street makes it home safely. Parker didn't just invent a martial art. With every strike and every principle, he designed a true life insurance for the complexity of the modern world.